What do you do to keep yourself motivated to succeed? If you go to my site, there's a link at the top of the page to ask me questions, and we get literally hundreds of questions every single week. What's interesting is that the great majority of people who follow me on social or on any other platform are business people. Some of them are small business people, some of them have 7 or 8 figure companies, and some of them are CEOs of multi-billion-dollar international brands. So you would think that the majority of questions that I get asked would be business tactics or maybe team development or how to develop yourself as a leader. But the number one question, almost consistently, is how do you stay motivated to succeed? And I think it's an amazing question because it doesn't matter what level you're at in business. Your ability to stay motivated to succeed is directly related to how well you focus in business, which is directly related to the results that you get in business. And I know that when you're just starting out, I know most people believe that as soon as they start to succeed and they begin to see money flowing in, that they're gonna have this unending motivation, but that is never the case, never the case. The amount of motivation you have from day one is the amount of motivation you're gonna probably have forever. And let me clarify that so I don't get a bunch of comments correcting me on this. People who are not internally motivated always tend to hit plateaus in their growth, and they get overwhelmed and frustrated very easily. And they often burn out in business before they really hit their groove and gain momentum. However, when you have strong internal motivation, and I'll explain what that means in just a moment, but when you have strong internal motivation, then no matter what happens throughout your day, or your week, or your month, or the quarter, you remain focused on the right actions that create success in your life. So let me give you an example of internal motivation. And I think the most famous one is Jim Carrey, the actor, who, when he was struggling to become an actor and he had no money coming in, he wrote himself a check for $10 million. And he folded that up and he put it in his pocket and he looked at that check every single day. And the decisions that he made throughout the day were decisions that he thought would bring him closer to making that check a reality. And the next big movie deal that he signed paid him $10 million. Now, is that just woo-woo, or did that internal motivation have some kind of an impact on his actual success? Who knows? But I'll tell you this, in my life, I am constantly leveraging my internal motivation to grow, not just in business, but in all areas of my life. And I'm gonna show you how to do that yourself as well. Now, for myself, way back when I was a skinny kid in high school and everybody else was pushing me around and picking on me because I was such a lightweight, one of the major internal motivators for me were pictures of bodybuilders that I used to hang in my basement, where I had a pair of dumbbells and a barbell that my dad got me. And every time I'd get home from school, I went down there and I kind of taught myself how to work out. And that internal motivation helped me to be confident in my body. And I have internal motivators for every area of my life, and they change because as I reach a goal, I change my internal motivation to help me get to the next level. And when it comes to business, each one of my companies has this goal of reaching a certain number of people as customers, as clients, as readers, followers, subscribers, everything, right? But it's important that you understand how to be super clear, because having a business that reaches a lot of people but doesn't profit is kind of the definition of business insanity, right? So it's really important to also have motivators that drive you to take the actions necessary to become profitable, so that your margin is high enough and so that your net revenue is high enough so that you can keep reinvesting in growing the company and reaching and helping more and more people. But let's take that to the next level, because even if you have a profitable business, but for some reason that profit is not filtering all the way through to you as the owner, then eventually you're gonna get amazingly burned out and you'll have nothing to show for all your efforts, right? And that may sound freaking crazy, but for many years in the beginning of my business, once my company began to make a really good amount of money and we were highly profitable, I was so fixated on growing and reaching more people that I kept reinvesting those profits into scaling the business. So personally, I was financially struggling. And if you follow me, you've probably heard me tell stories about the years where it was hard for me to afford pretty much anything personally. And I remember back then having a meeting with a friend of mine who was super successful. And he asked me a very important question. He said, "Do you have a will?" And at the time, I didn't have a lot of money personally, so I kind of thought that a will was a waste. And we had this really great discussion about what goes into a personal will and how clear you could be on where the money goes and how it gets divided. Anyway, after that meeting, I found this really great estate attorney who specialized in high net worth individuals. And I hired him to create a will for me. Now, here's where I think this is very, very valuable for you if you think outside the box and you get it. At the time, other than the value of my business, I only had a few $1,000s to my name. But I went to his office and I explained to him that although I don't have exactly $10 million saved up, I'm on track to be there very, very soon. So I wanted him to help me clearly detail how to distribute $10 million, which was my goal, to how to distribute that in my will. And for those of you who don't know anything about the process of designing a will, it is super detailed. And this brings us back to the most important aspect of growing any business, and that's clarity. You've heard me say this probably dozens and dozens of times if you follow me on social platforms or if you've seen me speak on stages or anything else, that I will spend more time on getting clear than I will on almost any other single aspect of business. Because the act of getting clear helps you to see the shortest path to success every single time. And that act of getting clear inside of a will was an exercise that I had never done before. And it helped me kind of to ingrain this powerful internal motivation that drove me to not only strive to reach and help even a greater number of people, but to build companies that are highly profitable. And it also helped me to not just do all that, but in a way that filled my personal bank accounts so that I could fulfill the commitments that I internally made in my will for my family and for charities and for my business partners. And that one decision to sit down and get clear and create that will helped me to exceed my expectations with my personal finances. And since then, I tore that will up and I created an even bigger one now because it now keeps me motivated because I'm at a different level in life. But that's just one of my internal motivators. What do you do in life to keep yourself focused and moving in the right direction and motivated, even on those days or weeks or months or quarters that you might feel frustrated or when you start to feel a little burned out? Take time to think about that and take time to get clear, because that could be one of the most pivotal moments in your, not only your year, but also in your life. Tell me in the comments below what your internal motivator is, and be open and share something of value, because your openness could help a lot of other entrepreneurs to grow. And at the same time, I want you to read the other comments, because those comments might spark this unique idea in your mind that could spur the next level of motivation that brings you to an even greater level than you might have ever thought possible. And do me a favor and hit the thumbs up and share this video. And if you have a question that you'd like me to answer or that you'd like to see covered in an upcoming video, either tell me in the comments or go to my site and hit the link at the top that says Ask Chris. I really look forward to connecting with you, either in the comments below right now or on my site.